Delivery for engagement.
No, we don't have that speaking of like.
Irrigation, any agency that delivers water.
Regulators?
Are you started?
Okay.
Provide water.
Are we going now?
All right, John, you want to hit the button? Go ahead and count how many you have and write it down. Go around and see how many we got.
16 here.
16.
You guys have 16 as well?
But we only have 3 people. We should get handicapped.
And there's 2 in each yard here. Yeah, we don't know, right?
And then what do we have from this table over here? 14.
It's like a double handicap.
All right, so that means that with a second place finish in game 1, a third place finish in game 2, and a first place finish in our final game here, table 1, closest to me, is the winner. We have food, of course. The prize here that we have chocolate, so.
Yeah, these are the untouched.
Actually, I touched one, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I had the green one, so
Right,
we're good.
yeah, exactly.
We're eating our color.
Each are respected. Okay.
Can they disinfect the M&Ms now? Yes, we did.
All right.
We're good.
So we have some winners and some non-winners. How's that feel? Hey.
Yeah, normal.
So we're now going to have a presentation from our consultant regarding a proposed scope of work change for the modeling effort. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Roderick, who's going to introduce the team and then provide a brief presentation. I would also like to open up the opportunity for anybody, staff, board members, members of the public, to ask any questions that you may have.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. As you're all aware, part of the whole plant water process is developing tools that allow us to project out 20, 30, 40, 50 years into the future. A big part of that is the unimpaired hydrology. Unimpaired hydrology ultimately helps feed the information as we move through the demand and the supply analysis as well. So, briefly, the original scope was to do a statistical analysis and to utilize CMIP6, which is, I'm going to get it wrong. Actually, you know what? I wrote it down. Coupled Model Intercomparison Project, which is basically the information related to the climate change. It's going to look at inputs related to temperature, precipitation, et cetera. So that information is part of the climate change variables that we put into the model to ultimately give us the information that we're looking for. So the original scope was to do a statistical analysis utilizing the CMIP6. What they're proposing today, and what we're going to hear a little presentation on, is utilizing the HEC HMS, which is, it's Hydrologic Engineering Center, aka Army Corps, and Hydrologic Modeling System, HMS, which is more of a physically based model that gives you a little better information in terms of especially events that are on the outside or outside of our statistical norm. An example would be 2 years ago when we had the runoff problem. Everybody had an expectation of what runoff would be coming off based on historically what we received based on the amount of snow we had. It was considerably less. Because the soil moisture was so light, it was sucking all the moisture into the ground before it could run off. And so a tool like this gives us additional information for those more extreme events, as well as just a better overall tool because it has a whole bunch of different pieces in it that we could utilize as a tool as we move forward, whether that includes operations, snow impacts, all those types of things. The other thing that's valuable to this is the CMIP 6, means it's phase 6. There's been multiple phases. So as we move forward, there's going to be more phases. There's going to be CMIP 7 and an 8 and a 9. That information can easily be integrated into an HMS model. If we keep with the statistical model, every time that gets updated, we have to go through the process and update all the equations, basically redo that over again. So with that, I'll hand it off to Marco Bell and his team. He's with West Consultants, who's the consultant that's doing this work. Give a presentation. This is open question and answer type stuff, so if you have something you want to raise your hand, please feel free to do so as we work our way through.
I have just a beginning question. Is since we're just sort of starting this process, why wasn't this the model that we began with? I mean, can someone speak to what happened here? You know?
Yeah, they'll speak to it, it's part of the presentation, so we'll cover it. It's a really good question, though. We also have one more question. Mr. Pasner has his hand raised. Mr. Pasner, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question regarding this topic? Mr. Pasner?
Get back.
Hold on. Mr. Pasner, would you like to unmute yourself? Okay, we'll move on. If you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand again.
Okay. Again, Marco Bell with West Consultants.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Marco Bell, I work with West Consultants. I have a part of our West team here, if you want, Viviana and I'll introduce you. They will also be part of the presentation today. Can y'all hear me okay in the back?
I think we need a microphone for
A mic would be good.
folks in the back and to project for our folks listening. I think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is this okay here? Okay, good. Next slide, please. So today this is our agenda for today. We basically got 5 topics. We're going to talk a little bit about our original scope, the watershed, historical hydrology, CIMMYT conditions for both 5 and 6, and we're going to talk about the different alternatives and our proposed alternatives and how they compare. So basically, we got 2 items. One of them is to update the historical hydrology. I believe it started from 2014 before, and we're updating it to 2021. That's one process that was very similar in the past, and Jeff is going to be talking about that in a little bit. And then the second component is our projected hydrology, what happens for the next 50 years. And there's a whole different approach because you don't really have gauges that we already measure the future. So we got to basically analyze this in a scientific manner, and that's where the CIMMYT process comes in. This here is showing there was a recent study, I'm sure almost everybody heard of this, the big mega flood. I just wanted to put it in here because it also shows that we're in a severe drought now. We're talking about mega floods. And the reason is because with climate change, the variability is changing. We're getting a lot of drought conditions that we didn't get in the past as much, and we're getting a lot of high events. This, of course, the mega flood is like a probable maximum kind of thing, but it does point out that the variability of floods is changing, and it's something that we need to think about as we analyze our strategies for water in the future. This is an example of what climate change is doing. You can see that the precipitation here is on the left. The long duration is the left part. You can focus on that. It hasn't changed that much. There's no light purple added to it, and you can see that really hasn't changed that much. There's some in the higher events in the precipitation here. This is for ARs. But take a look at what's happening to the runoff. Even though our low high frequency, high duration events are not changed, the runoff is, okay? And what's causing that? That is climate change. That's basically our temperatures going up, melting the snow more as before, and the snow is actually, the center mass or the amount of snow is actually moving higher in the mountains. And the low level elevations are getting melted off due to the high temperature conditions that climate change occurs. And as a result, this impacts our operations, it impacts how we manage our water supply, the timing, and how we meet the demands. So it has a lot of implications when it comes to planning strategies for the future. And that runoff is kind of important for us to focus on in terms of analyzing snow conditions in the basin. Next. This just kind of shows our basins here in NID, and the dots are just infrastructures, things like dams, canals, different geostructures, and another important things that need to be included in the model for analysis. That's just, I think most people here know this, but that's basically, we need to model that. Yes?
Our powerhouses, is that some of those dots?
Yes, I believe they are. Especially with the dams. Okay, next. Okay, so this is just basically showing what climate change models do. They kind of look at it in a grid basis throughout the world. It's a global thing. And then when they run it, they are very coarse. And then we have to take the ability of going from a coarse global type model and take the part that impacts us, make it into a level where we can analyze this for us. And that's a long process. Somewhat, it's an engineering type process. Luciano will be talking a little bit about the details of how to do that. But that's what we need to focus on to get it to the NID level. We just can't take a model that's global and use it, for us. So there's a lot of science that goes behind it. We're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to show a movie that explains it very, very good. I love this movie. This is why it's time to put it in the presentation. It's only about 4 minutes long, but I think we'll be happy to answer questions after that. Okay.
Climate change is an existential threat to our environment. Modeling allows us to recreate this multifaceted phenomena using computers to approximate reality. It also gives us the possibility of experimenting. For instance, modifying human-induced greenhouse gas emissions without actually using the Earth as a laboratory. A climate model is a complex computer code that creates a digital analog of Earth. This model mimics the processes and interactions between parts of Earth's climate system: the atmosphere, ocean, land surface, cryosphere, and biosphere. We can use the model results to estimate the consequences of further changes in our climate. Nevertheless, we don't know how to model precisely every physical, biogeochemical, and societal process. Can we trust models to provide reliable data? How accurately do they represent the real world? Over time, modelers have improved the representation processes with higher resolution and complexity, bringing increasing realism and relevance to the simulations. We have very big computers, but they are still not big enough to simulate an identical copy of Earth. Thus, simplifications are required. How we simplify the climate system is unique to each model. To estimate how much we can trust model simulations of the future, we compare models to real-world observations, and we begin to compare model simulations of the Earth's future climate. Climate scientists around the globe have been busy working on this problem for more than 4 decades. The coordination of this research is called the Coupled Model Intercomparison Project, or CMIP. CMIP started in 1995, organized by the World Climate Research Programme, to coordinate the global climate modeling community. The purpose is to undertake a common set of climate simulations to obtain a multi-model perspective of climate change. This helps evaluate climate models, leads to improvements in the model simulations, and provides a better understanding of past, present, and future climates. One additional strength of CMIP lies in its global infrastructure, which has gathered the data and gives open access for a growing global research community. CMIP has grown from a modest scientific research initiative
Now we can.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yep. All right, yep, we can.
You should be able to.
Yes, we're gonna restart, Jeff's part of the presentation again.
Okay, sorry for those of you in the room. My role in this project is to develop the historic hydrology. That's very important in calibrating and validating the operations model, because I'm using measured flow as opposed to the climate change hydrology, which is more of a forecast. My hydrology data set is based on measured flow, which I'm getting from TOR for the NID gauges. I've also been working with PG&E for the gauges on the Drum-Spalding system. And then to fill in, I'm also using USGS gauges. So what we're doing is collecting all the data first. There's a little bit of QA/QC work to do on that data. And then we will extend the records that HDR has built over the years, first for the FERC licensing work, and then I think they've just over time extended the records through 2014. We're going to extend it further through 2021 using similar methods that HDR used. They've even provided us with their methods, their spreadsheets, and so we'll look at that, probably use mostly the same type of processes to extend that hydrology. That hydrology will then go into our operations model. We'll work with the operators, NID operators, to make sure that we've captured the operations correctly in the model. And then that way we'll know that the hydrology is adequate for our planning purposes. I think that's it. Any questions? Luciana?
Thank you, Jeff. I'll just introduce myself briefly. My name is Luciana Cunha. I'm a physical scientist, and I have focused on the last years in climate change analysis. So we are here to answer any of the questions you guys have on the topic. So the previous analysis have been done based on CMIP 5. CMIP 5 was available, made available in 2013. And since then, we have had a new data set that has been made available in 2021. And that raised the question, which data set should we use? Should we use the one that has been released recently, or the one that has been used before? So that's a little bit what we are going to talk about. And based on that, we have 3 different options here. And today, what we want to do is to walk you through these options and make sure that you understand the advantage and disadvantage of each one of the options. Okay, so Marco helped me a lot here showing that video that talks about the global climate model, right? That's just the beginning. So different universities across the world collaborate among themselves to define specific criteria to run these global climate models. What's the period of time that they are going to run it for? How they are going to validate that? Then how they are going to evaluate them? What are the parameters? So that's what they do. And then this data is made available for the community to use to evaluate climate change. However, as you can see, there's no pointer, right? On the top picture here that's the resolution of a global climate model, okay? And you can see the state of California there. Global climate models are very coarse resolution. They are not appropriate to use to evaluate local or regional effects of climate change. So the first thing you need to do is to downscale that model that is very coarse into a resolution that is appropriate for local and regional global climate change analysis, okay? That's not going to be done by us, okay? This is normally done by universities, and they get that global data set, and downscale it for us, okay? Once they downscale that only simulates precipitation, temperature, and other atmospheric variables. Now, from there to precipitation reaching the ground, how it's gonna run off to the river, how much it's gonna infiltrate in the soil. That's not done by universities. That's the part that we are gonna have to deal with. So we need to get the precipitation temperature and make sure that we convert it in the best way possible into runoff, into the river. For the previous project, that was also done. We used a data set that was available, that was generated by the California Water Commission, or HDRU. Because the CMIP 6 is so recent, there are no data sets like that yet that have been generated and validated for CMIP 6. So we are going to have to generate that data set. And that's what we are going to elaborate more in here. Skip one. Yeah, I'm a little confused. It's like, oh, okay. This is just a comparison of CMIP 5 and CMIP 6. And, you know, part of the graph is cropped here, but this is temperature, okay? So you can see that up to 2040, maybe, it's, and let me describe, the continuous line is CMIP 6. The dashed lines are CMIP 5, and they are different, the different colors represent different emission scenarios, okay? So you can see that up to 2030, maybe, there is not too much discrepancy, right? But after that, the lines start become apart from each other. And that's why it's important that we really try to use the best data set. Now, being very open here about what CMIP says about it, they normally don't recommend one data set over the other. They say everything is projected, right? But we know that from one CMIP to the next, there are a lot of improvements in the models that are done. And one major improvement, the most important improvement for California, is the improvement in resolution. So models that used to be around 300 square kilometers resolution are not good to represent the topography in this area. So since then, they have improved the resolution of those models a lot, and therefore we have reasons to believe that CMIP 6 is better than CMIP 5, which is better than CMIP 3. Next. Okay, so here are the three alternatives that we are going to be talking today. One is to use CMIP 5, and for that one, we already have the data set. We are good to go. The other one is use CMIP 6 and do apply statistical analysis to estimate runoff. In general, it's a accepted methodology. It can provide good results. It's when we get to the extremes that we worry the most. Extreme drought, extreme flood. We are extrapolating from what has happened in the past. So therefore, there is a limitation. There are uncertainties that are involved. And the third alternative is to use CMIP 6 with a hydrological model. So what the hydrological model is going to do is what I mentioned before. So we get precipitation and temperature from these models, from the global climate models. Now we need to use these variables to actually propagate it through the terrain and define how much is going to infiltrate, how much is going to run off, how much is going to evaporate. I don't know if I need to go through this again because I think I talked everything that I said. But let's go through it because I think this way we really spell it out what are the advantages and disadvantages. So alternative one, CMIP 5 is kind of done for us. We already have runoff, right? However, it uses older global projection. And the runoff that we have for us, so normally when you get these global climate models, there are more than 30 models. And because you don't know which model is the correct model, you do a sample approach, right? So you kind of look at all the models and see the variability between the models. What they did in this to generate runoff here is that they used the extreme models. So the model that predicts more wet and hotter, with the model that predicts less wet and drier. So just the extreme. So it's not using every single model. So that's one disadvantage of the data set that we have. Alternative to, as I mentioned before, is the one that is used statistical analysis. It's the one that is in the proposal, in the current proposal that we are planning to use. And it's extrapolating from what has happened in the past, which we don't, might be or might not be representative of what is going to happen in the future. The CIMIP 6 downscale data set is not available yet, so we cannot start it right now, but I have communicated with the groups that generated this downscale data set, and it's going to be available in the beginning of the year. Alternative 3 is actually to use a physical model to simulate the process from rain to runoff. And the advantage of using a physical model is because it can simulate situations that haven't happened in the past. Or it's more likely to simulate correctly this type of situations. The cost here, and that includes the cost of developing the hydrological model, calibrating it, validating it, and running the climate change scenarios through it, is around $228,000. And again, the data is going to be available in the beginning of January. Okay.
Question?
Yeah, sure.
So if we approve the 228, 310, how much will it save us down the road if, in case we didn't choose this alternative? Let's say we went with number 2. How much would that cost to redo in 10, 20 years?
I think eventually you have to spend it, right? Because you don't want to keep forever using statistical models.
Right.
So the choice is, do you want to do it now or do you want to do it later? And do you want to really use a less precise method now and hold for it to develop the model later? And besides that, the model that is going to be developed is a very accepted model for forecasting, for real-time operations too. So maybe you can make use of that for other purposes too. So I don't know, I can't tell you in numbers how much you're going to save. I just can tell you eventually you're going to have to do it.
I have a question. Have you used the CMIP 6 with the HMS before? I mean, in other projects?
Let me ask this, and then we'll address your question there, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Thank you. So there was one big difference between CIMIP 5 and CIMIP 6. Okay, one where you can be saving money. CIMIP 5, if we use it from a statistical approach, as was mentioned earlier, we're going to have to redo that every time.
Right.
Every time there's an update, every time there's a new study, every time you want to check a different simulation, because every time you change anything, you got to do the entire analysis, because the results also impact other things. With the HMS model, you just got to put in the preset data and the temperature that you're going to be looking at, and it automatically develops your process. In addition, in the future, it can be used for other studies, and it can be used for operational analysis. That's something that the statistical approach does not follow. It is a valid result, and it does help you for trying to develop strategies, but I think there's a lot of benefit from going with the physical approach in the future because of that.
So it gives us a lot more flexibility down the road. And, I mean, it's costing us $1 million to do CMIP 5, or 6 with the physical. So we could be saving that each time, we don't have to do it.
Absolutely, and also you're gonna have a more detailed analysis. Okay, because statistics doesn't, eventually doesn't handle the extremes, but it also, there's a higher level of detail and simulation because you're using a created model that is a small grid versus using precipitation basin wide analyze a single point.
I think Karen had a question.
Let's see, what was it?
I remember it.
Oh, yes, have you used the CMIP 6 with HEC and HMS before?
Okay, I have not. And the reason is I have used CMIP, any of this other CMIP with HEC HMS, but CMIP 6 is new, and the downscale data is still being generated. However, it's precipitation and temperature data, right? Like, using CMIP 6, CMIP 5, or any other CMIP is the same procedure, it's the same logic, it's the same science, it's just a different data set. So I don't foresee any problem using CMIP 6.
All right, we have a question from the public here. Are El Nino/Southern Oscillation ENSO predictions and models incorporated into this hydrology modeling approach?
It's incorporated into global climate model.
So it's incorporated into the global climate model?
Yes.
And then one more question. Will there be any correlation of ENSO predictions and recent or future volcanic activity in the likely paths of atmospheric rivers across Northern California or other precipitation patterns into these scenarios?
Can you repeat that, please?
Read it slower.
Yeah, the answer is the same. The climate change models,
Yeah.
climate change models are handling the ARs, and they're handling future ARs development, and they're also handling the location of where they hit and how they're moving north, and they're handling the oscillations of the weather and the climate in different locations, and the global models handle that. Actually, that's the essence of the.
Yeah, the volcanic part, that was the one that got me. Wow. It's thought to be a contributing factor, but I'm assuming it's in the global climate.
Yeah, and it's included in the global climate.
All right, Laura.
How firm are these people on their date of having the data available on January 6th? I mean, what is the chance, are they reliable that that's when that's going to happen? And if it slips till 3 months or 6 months or whatever, how does that impact your schedule?
There is a data set that is already available, which is the one that I showed the maps for. So there was like,
That's 5 or that's 6?
this is 6. The one that I showed is 6. And I'm not going to get into details here. It's a actually better way to downscale the data set, but it's available only for 10 modules. As I mentioned before, CMIP 6 is available for more than 30 modules. So if we hit a deadline that we need to do the analysis, we can do with these 10 start with these 10 modules that are available and then go later for the more modules if they are not available by January. Now, how reliable they are already, so the reason it's not out, it has already been generated, they are publishing on it. So it's not going to be out until it's published.
I have a question. So I'm still not understanding why in the beginning, when we had the proposal from your company, that this was not foreseen, the HEC modeling. Was it because it's brand new? You know, what can you say about that?
Well, that was on the, originally it was a competitive approach, and we were actually looking at being a low cost. So we kind of presented something that would work on low cost. As we learn more about the MID basin, we realized how complex it is. And then I felt personally that we actually should go to the physical style model because of the complexity of the basin and because of the physical dynamics that are involved in completing the feature. So the original model actually had like a pilot approach to do this, but it was not the detailed, comprehensive, basin-wide approach for this as a potential alternative. I took it out because I just wanted to take all those alternatives out and try to have a simplified approach at first. But as I learned more, it became clear to me that a physical approach was definitely better for the basin, but also more defendable technically. Because, as you know, physical models compared to what happened in the ground, and almost every basin, there was a few basins that did okay, one of the ones that had the physical approach actually did better, predicted that drought. So that's what I did.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That
and,
helps.
also just want to throw in there that, we're at a point where we haven't spent any effort that we wouldn't already be doing no matter what alternative.
Okay, thank you for that. I
So,
wanted to know that.
We deal with this kind of stuff quite a bit where there's potential improvements or suggestions by consultants. Sometimes we look at them in-house and don't bother going forward with them. Sometimes we do. We think this one is valuable. Again, I think a big part is because we can easily adapt this model moving forward. So when CMIP 7 or 8 comes out, and our whole idea is that we're not just gonna build one model and then live with it for
Right.
50 years. We're gonna be updating it. There's gonna be some benefit in terms of that. And it's ultimately gonna save us money by doing this now, so we don't have to do the full one.
I see the benefit. I just didn't have an understanding of why it wasn't in the proposal. to
Yeah,
begin with.
and it's a,
I think he adequately
yeah, it's
answered the
a
question.
well-determined way to do it, right? The statistical approach. And,
Yeah.
and like you said, the initial RFP is based on a competitive RFP. So
Right, I get it.
presenting the more expensive one isn't always the best in terms of.
Yeah, I wanted to add also on the previous question about the schedule, because it's an important question. We have to do HMS model first anyway, okay? So we're gonna have time to try to get the CMIP 6 data, and we need to coordinate with that. We cannot actually done a great job. So I'll be talking with you, Doug, we gotta send some letters and all that kind of stuff, but we'll take care of that. But in the initial phase of it, we're gonna be developing the HMS model anyway. So we can't really input climate data, precip and temperature, into the model until the model structure is actually built. So it's not gonna impact the schedule that much.
I think Laura has a question
I have
now.
a question for Doug. I'm happy with the team, don't get me wrong, but was there another firm that proposed this initially that was kicked out for cost?
We only got one proposal.
Yeah, it's only
Only
one.
one.
Just the one West Consultant, their team.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't have.
That's good, I just wanted, make
Yeah, so they were kind of apples to apples.
Then I have one more written question over here before we move on. What is the planning horizon for updating forecasting?
CMIP 5 was 2013, CMIP 6 was 2021. That's more or less. Maybe it's gonna start coming a little faster because computers are faster now, and, you know, it depends on, it takes a long time to run the simulations. So I would say around between 5 and 10 years.
I think we have Rich.
So if we approve this add-on, you don't forecast anymore?
That's kind of a trick question, I know. But Luciana was just referring to the CMIP component, okay? The plan for water is probably gonna be updated every 5 years, and we may be updating things other than just the simulation.
I understand
So,
that.
and with the HMS model, that's not super difficult to do.
Excellent.
Trevor?
So, is this cost being offset by some grants, or we're paying out of?
No, so, based off of the feedback we received today, there is an item on the consent agenda for the board meeting tomorrow. We do not anticipate requiring at this time a budget amendment because the contract's already crossing over fiscal years. So it will be, the remainder of the contract will be included in the annual budget proposal for 2023.
But there's no grant money out there
No.
for doing?
Not that we have come across yet.
I do have a question, and I apologize because I think it's pretty basic, but I'd like to understand what a physically based hydrologic model is.
There is no business question, so. Basically, it simulates each dominant process. So you have evaporation, you have precipitation, and then water reaching the soil and can infiltrate or run off. And the routing, how long does it take for the water to reach the ground? This is done by physical equations, by really trying to simulate what is happening in the landscape. Instead of a statistical model that is saying, oh, this happened like that in the past, so I believe it's gonna happen like that in the future. There is no physics on that, you know? It's just kind of looking at what happened in the past, I'm gonna predict the future, instead of, I'm gonna look at the soil and the way the soil reacts to water and how the water gets out of the soil through evaporation. So we are really trying to simulate these different components of the water balance. And another, I'm a scientist, so I'm like back here, but I think that they will have, the physical model is great to bring you understanding, right? So you understand why you're getting more water, why you're getting less water, why this basin behaves different than that other basin.
Maybe
So that's another.
I can add a little bit. So to make it a little higher level, the former models until about 2 years ago were based on past data and projections. Currently, we've built computers that are fast enough to run models that adhere to the laws of physics. So that's what she's talking about. We're actually modeling gravity, absorption, all of that So we're taking the past data and running it through the new model that actually will make it adhere to the laws of physics as an ongoing basis.
With the understanding that it's still a model, right? It's still projections, but they're using the equations for the different pieces to actually develop that model versus like what Trevor said, which is just looking at historical in the past. Which is why a couple of years ago with the snow runoff, right? Historically, we would have expected more, but because the soil moisture was so dry, it was absorbing a bunch of that water. This would be able to help better.
Yeah, so that's exactly correct. The physical models have, as Luciana said, and other neighborhoods, they have equations. So we're able to handle things like snowpack, snowmelt, at site conditions at that specific time. Therefore, you can use it in real time analysis in the future. And that's kind of, to me, it's really neat. You can really analyze different things when you know exactly what's happening with the physics as opposed to just numbers and, guessing, what happens. And if you're outside of the data set, like about 2 years ago, you're going to probably know the answer.
I think Jeremy has a question.
Yeah, that was helpful for me to hear, because when I looked at that graph you showed earlier where it showed the different projections, and you said like after 2040, depending on different emission scenarios, they spread way out. And so my question previously was, what is the benefit of getting really precise on the physical data if there's way more variability based on emissions? Like, we don't know what the emission scenario is going to be, so there's a huge window where we could fall in, and precision somewhere in that huge window is important if we don't know the emission scenario. So the physical model is much more usable to have like on a small scale where we know what we're going to get in an individual year. Is that maybe an accurate representation, or is there some way that it's helping us in that grander, long-term decision-making?
There are a lot of things there.
Yeah.
So to start with, the temperature plot that I showed is global, right? When you start going to your local scale, the variability matters, and we are going to look at all the different models and all the different scenarios, right? So we want to understand the variability in the forcing, which you call precipitation and temperature, and how that reflects into runoff. And to do that, we need that model. Because it might be that a certain variability in precipitation, the runoff might be less sensitive to certain variability in precipitation and temperature.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't say that without really modeling every single component of the water balance. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure.
Kind of. I guess my question is more in terms of how valuable is it in a long-term decision-making sense to do the physical modeling. It seems like it's very valuable in the short term. Like, we know we have snowpack and dry soil. Like, we want to know that so we can understand that scenario. But in a long-term, 100-year planning, 50-year planning, it seems like there's way more variability based on emission scenarios than on soil conditions.
Yeah, but there's much more extreme, right? We are going to be seeing situations that we don't see today, and the statistical methods are not going to capture it. So it is still valuable.
Okay.
I have two more questions from the public. So, Mr. Ross is indicating, did he hear a 5-year planning horizon? Mr. Ross, I'm not sure if you're talking about NID's planning horizon for updating the model, or from the new,
Global climate.
yeah, the global climate change, which is around a 5-6 year period, but we anticipate that it becomes faster as time goes on. Correct? All right, and then will NID change its data collection, data quality protocols to collect data now and in the future for these types of modeling efforts? Likely, we'll have to see the daily applicability of the model and how we're currently running our operations and collecting data. So we'll have to evaluate that once the model's complete.
It'd be really short-sighted not to spend this $200K. Where the model's going requires the physical laws to be part of the model, because in 5 years, AI is gonna take over And if you're not using the models we're talking about, you're gonna pay to redo them all.
Well, and this has a lot to do with why the, modeling for last year on a statewide basis and the year before was wrong. You know, it
Right.
was based off of the statistical analysis. As I think Doug pointed out earlier, what it didn't capture was the extreme, especially the soil moisture content, which resulted in much less runoff than we've ever experienced before with the same amount of precipitation. So this type of model will enable NID to be better positioned in the future to collect this data, update the model, and be able to move more quickly with climate change as opposed to kind of always just guessing in the dark a little bit. Any other questions before she goes on to the next slide? We have 2 more slides.
I don't remember which.
I
Okay.
know.
This is just kind of a, very schematic way to look at the different alternatives. I'm not gonna go in detail over them again, because I think we talked a lot about that. I think, and I don't remember what is the next slide. I think we kind of basically covered everything. Can you just, yeah. Okay, so you can go back one maybe, and leave on the one that shows all the alternatives, because I think that's a good slide for discussion if we want to have more discussion on that.
By way of CMIP 5.
All right.
I think this is,
Hold it up.
a necessary thing that we need to do. It gives us a better model, more accurate, better prediction, allows us to, in that scenario with the drier soil, allows us to not only be more flexible, but hopefully anticipate our moves without having to be always running behind. That's the goal, right?
Or relying on other organizations to generate the data for you, because that was what was done in the previous contract.
Right.
But, we cannot always rely that people are gonna do it
Well,
again.
and each watershed is so different. Look at ours right now compared to, one, 2 watersheds south. It's just very different.
So any other questions or discussion? So I think the plan is that we have, as I stated earlier, we have this proposed contract amendment on the consent agenda for tomorrow. So if there's any input between now and then, please let us know, and please, feel free to come express any opinions you may have at the, meeting tomorrow. I just wanted to make sure, we did call on some of our stakeholders to help us evaluate this proposal. I think Beth is in the room. Beth, do you have anything to add regarding this proposed modeling effort?
Nope, I think it's a.
All right, I don't see anybody else.
Michael Ross had one more comment.
I think I got them all. We answered them verbally.
Okay.
I did hear from 2 of the people on your task force who reviewed this, the consultant's proposal, and both of them were in favor. Actually, I spoke with 3 of them. All 3 were in favor of.
Yeah, me too. I had 3 people contact me and express their support for this.
Okay. And I concur with Ricky's summary of that.
Yeah, sometimes it is better, you're better off spending a little bit more money up front to be better prepared for the future. And one of the, there's a couple of things that this proposal brings, and one is, I think, what Director Heck mentioned, and that's the ability to be flexible as we are able to collect more and more data. Data is the way of life moving forward, and so as we continue to collect data, improve what we're doing, as the systems improve, we'll be able to much more respond quickly to climate change, because there's a lot we don't know yet. All right.
I would just think too that from the perspective of water districts statewide, probably in a broader context, that the study that we're doing is at the leading edge of this kind of work, and so it can help others to look at how they approach their planning and and address difficult water-related issues within their own district. So I'm pleased that the district is in this kind of leadership role.
One of the other things that will help with this, because our system is so complex, especially how it is co-operated, I think that will also help us have a better understanding. Laura?
Is this a similar, I know that PCWA did the downscale modeling, is this the same model that they were working with, or is it compatible with the model they were working with? How does that tie in?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't think that it's the same model, but I'm not sure.
You're talking about the climate, she's talking about the climate change.
Yeah, but that's what started a few years ago. Jeff, Jeff's an expert in PCWA.
Yeah, I think maybe you're referring to the American River Basin model. Yeah, so that climate change data set was developed by, the Bureau of Reclamation, TSC, Technical Services. So, I believe it was a different model, they did it in-house.
Are they compatible?
They use Cement 5.
Yeah, it was done 2 years ago, so it can't.
And then actually they use Cement 3 and Cement 5, which is compatible, that is.
So it's how it works?
Yeah, this would be updated.
I don't have.
Yeah, but, I mean, they are two separate bases, though, right? Because the
Yeah, but the,
utility of their old data.
yeah, they did it for the entire Calcin 3, area, which is most of California. So they didn't cover your basin, but, this data would be updated.
Okay. All right, and then, Tracy Sheehan has a comment. Tracy, you want to unmute yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
You can.
Oh, great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for calling on me. Tracy Sheehan, Foothills Water Network. I want to thank the consultants and NID for putting this on the agenda. And one reason isn't just about discussing the model, but it's actually, I think this is a critical piece of the public process of the Plan for Water. It's bringing these issues to the forefront and giving us the opportunity to look at them together. So if we hadn't had this change in scope, we would have missed this opportunity, right? So this is actually more of an opportunity for us to contrast and compare the models. And then along the way, it gives us all a better understanding of what the modeling is actually doing. So thank you for this presentation. And I would be remiss to not say that the network does support this new scope. I think that it's going to give you the most defensible model. My understanding is that from the presentation we've had, that the statistical based model is very limited, especially with climate change and these new bookends of extremes. The statistically based model is not going to perform as well for what we are facing in the future. And so that's why this is the most defensible model. And when you match that with the new data, I think that's the best starting point for the district. So thank you for the opportunity to give comment.
Tracy. Anybody else? All right, so we're done with this segment. We're gonna take a quick break, get a snack, and then we'll be back here in about 14 minutes.
A short 5 minutes.
It was a very short 25 minutes.
Oopsies. Yeah.
All right. Steve, do you want to help me? So we're gonna just do a quick review of what we referred to. Are we all streaming again? Okay. What we refer to as metrics. So one of the things, one of the things that often happens with strategic planning, we did hear it a little bit more in the last item, is that as NID becomes more and more sophisticated, whether it be from a financial accounting perspective, from water delivery data, to work order data, repair data. One thing that is helpful is when you kind of look at metrics, especially metrics you can compare to other like. And so what we did is we don't have a super sophisticated system right now for tracking data. As everybody's aware, we're currently in transition of upgrading our financial system. We are currently in the process of updating our financial system. Ken and John shepherded a huge effort to get a new work order system that will be used for both hydropower maintenance and ops. And all of these together, they will start collecting a lot more data that can be utilized for tools very similar to what we talked about previously. So this, our metric of tracking ability right now is not very sophisticated, not very good. We'll probably have to zoom in on that a little bit. But what I thought we would do is look at some important financial metrics because it will give you somewhat of an idea of the district's current strategic position. And so in order to conduct the analysis, some of it is a little bit difficult from the standpoint that all agencies are totally different, right? So for example, the comparable agencies with us, obviously, Yuba Water Agency, PCWA, and EID. So some of the notable differences is NID and PCWA are probably the most similar in that we have both treated and raw water customers. Where Yuba, they are more of a wholesale raw water supplier where they supply member agencies. And then El Dorado Irrigation District is a lot different in that they, in particular, have more enterprises. So an enterprise fund is what a utility is referred to, so we currently provide water. EID also provides water and sewer as well as reclaimed water. So reclaimed water is clean effluent from a wastewater treatment reclamation facility that then they serve for water use purposes. So they essentially have three different enterprise funds, as well as all four agencies do also have hydropower generation facilities. Mr. Bierwag.
Is this number right, PCWA's net pension liability, $506 million?
That's 518,000.
Right.
Where are you at? No, it's 506,000.
506.
0.5 thousand.
It's a K.
It's a K.
Not million.
No. So some of the things.
Oh, that's much better.
Yeah,
Much better. Yeah,
They were paying
506,
that
that's a
out.
lot of public employees.
Holy cow.
There's big trouble then. You're like LA County if you're up that way. We're not that big. So some of the things that I found interesting going through this, and one of the other challenges is both Yuba as well as El Dorado Irrigation District, they both do a 2-year annual budget cycle, which results in a 2-year annual financial audit, where PCWA and us were on single-year fiscal year cycles. So we're calendar year. I'm not sure about PCWA. I feel like they're on a regular fiscal year. So I'm going through and looking. What you'll see, some things that stood out to me. Number of board members, right? That's neither kind of here nor there. Most people have 5. Yuba has 7, but they also have a different type of a board, and that their board members are representatives of their member agency boards. Number of employees, we have a decent amount of employees. We're running around 204, 205 approved positions right now. Yuba is really small because they don't provide from an employee perspective, they do not provide the number of customer service as us, PCWA, or El Dorado Irrigation District do. PCWA, 231, and then EID at 225. One thing that's notable is kind of the number of customer accounts. So one of the things you'll really notice is that in comparison, NID to PCWA and El Dorado Irrigation District, we have a lot less customer counts. So we're around 25,000, and they're both around a little bit over 40,000 customer accounts. The one thing that this tells me is that the benefit of having more customers is your static costs, all of your overhead costs, are spread over more customers. So when you're establishing rates, there's a component of your rate that is a fixed cost, that those costs really don't change based off of the amount of your commodity that you sell, and that those are considered fixed costs. So if you only have 10 customers to split your fixed costs over versus 100 customers to split your fixed costs over, the cost per customer for those fixed costs is much higher the lower number of customers you have. And so that is one of the big challenges that NID has, is that we do have a smaller customer base, but we still have a fairly comparable level of fixed administrative overhead costs from facilities, HR, legal costs. Those are probably fairly similar. So that's one of the issues that we currently have. Our customer base is smaller in comparison. Total operating revenue. So operating operating revenue is revenue that is received from selling something. So that could be hydropower operation revenue, that could raw water sales, treated water sales. Those are all operating revenue. Non-operating revenue is property tax or other fixed fees that are collected. For example, capacity fees would be considered non-operating revenue. Grant reimbursements, non-operating revenue. Property taxes, non-operating revenue. So one of the things you'll also notice is from an operating revenue perspective, we have a lot less operating revenue as well, which makes sense because a lot of our revenue recovery is based off of our water customers. So for comparison purposes, total operating revenue, we have about $55 million, UBO's about $92 million, PCWA is $97 million, which is largely reflective of their large customer base, and then EID is $68.3 million. One of the challenges with EID is their fund accounting is very different. You know, you can do fund accounting a number of different ways. There's no right, wrong reason to do it. They happen to include hydropower into their water fund, so it is a little bit not apples and apples if you're looking at it, if you want to pull the data apart. So non-operating revenue, we have a decent amount. We have more non-operating revenue than UBA, a little bit less than PCWA, and less than El Dorado Irrigation District. One of the items that's notable is most of our non-operating revenue is in the form of property tax revenue. So we get about $13.75 to $14 million a year in property tax revenue. Remember, that comes in 2 payments every year. Typically, there could be a third true-up payment, but it's usually in 2 payments. So UBA gets very little property tax revenue. PCWA gets very little property tax revenue. PCWA gets a whole lot of capacity fee revenue because there's a lot of development going on within their district, right? So your capacity fee, grant reimbursements, that's all non-operating. And then EID as well, they do have some pretty significant development going up in El Dorado County. So you do see that number a little bit higher as well. And they have more comparable property tax revenue than we do. One of the issues with property tax revenue is that property tax revenue, as a general tax, it is subjected, it's an ad valorem tax, so it starts out as 1% of the total property, the assessed property value, and the property tax revenues, they only increase by 2%. That ad valorem is only 2% increase, that's by Prop 13 that was passed, I don't even know what it was, 78 or 80? 78, that's right. Back in 78 when that was passed, so property house assessments would only increase from tax purposes 2% per year, and so that's 2% on that 1%, right? So it's a very nominal amount of growth in property tax. The other time property assessments increase is if you do some large improvement to your home or you sell your home, and then that kind of restarts that over. I bring this up because there's not a whole lot of opportunity to squeeze more property tax out, right? It is somewhat, for us, it's going to be a fairly consistent pot of money.
So the only way you do that is by bringing more people into the district?
Yeah, essentially. So it's either through development. So if there is a parcel that's in district that is not currently developed, gets developed and gets reassessed, you do see a fairly good chunk of that increased increment tax. The other way is through annexations, but with the challenge with annexations, when you annex in any particular land from one jurisdiction to another government jurisdiction, you have to go through what's referred to as property tax, and that is how that 1% ad valorem pie is split, right? So part of the pie goes to the county, part of the pie goes to mosquito abatement district, huge part of the pie goes to schools. There was a huge ERAF shift, which was Educational Realignment Fund shift to property tax, that shifted a lot of property tax over as well. So when it comes down to it, the NID and the city and the county, they're splitting like 6% of that overall pie amongst each other. So when you annex in, you have to go renegotiate that small piece of the pie. And the negotiations are supposed to reflect the transfer and responsibility for providing specific services over. And so we have current property tax sharing agreements with the county when any property is annexed into the district. They had a little bit of property tax, but it's not all that much money. So total revenues, we're looking around 70 million, you know, and that raises up or down a year depending on grants we get. Also, if it's a super dry year, we're doing a lot of water cutbacks, that could impact us. Yuba is about 97 million. Their revenue is predominantly dependent upon how much hydropower they are able to generate. On a really, what I found interesting, on a bad year for them, they're like in the $30-40 million range. On a good year, they can generate a lot of money in hydropower. And then they also receive a lot of revenue associated with water transfers underneath their Yuba Accord agreement. PCWA, they do fairly well with revenue as well, 124 million. And then EID is about 93 million. So one of the things you'll note, right, one of the highest one of our costs is always going to be labor. And so when your number of employees is pretty similar, but your revenue is a lot lower, that kind of shows you one of our challenges, right? So what this tells me is we need to look for non-ratepayer revenue opportunities. And then we're gonna have to start doing some long-term financial planning just related to our own water rates, because we have some expensive things coming up. Net pension liability, I found this really interesting. We're not actually doing that bad. So your net pension liability is your unfunded liability that is associated with CalPERS discount. One of the things with happened about 10 years ago with CalPERS, they had basically a bust in their projections based off of their performance on the market. And so at that time, they gave every participating agency an unfunded liability number, and that essentially is the amount you have to pay extra to pay the delta between the revenues they did not receive that they projected to receive based off of their investments. But we're doing fairly well. We do kind of a pay as you go. You know, we could focus more on it, but I'm not overly alarmed. It's not that high at $5.5 million. And then our net OPEB liability, OPEB is other post-employee benefits. These are retiree health care benefits. We're also doing pretty good on this front. We have our OPEB trust almost fully funded. We're about $1.5 million short, and we haven't had to reach into the trust. So those are two really good things for us. Rich?
Two things. Eldorado's up 51 million and 22 million. I mean, my God.
I know. So you also have to understand, so I pulled these numbers out of their most recent CAFR. El Dorado Irrigation District and Yuba Irrigation District, we were there on that 2-year cycle. So they'll do a new CAFR coming up, not for 2023. So it's not I don't know what their today's position is. I didn't pull an actuarial report.
So how did CalPERS do this year? Because I heard they were down.
CalPERS, I think that they met their projections. I want to say they were like at, Debbie might know, wasn't it like 4.8, 5%? They usually try to project 6% on returns, but they didn't do as bad. I think we're going to have another adjustment coming. Yeah.
Yes, okay, so we may be on the hook for a little bit.
Yeah.
So is there investment policies? They're really constricted in what they'll invest in.
They're not. They have, no. In the past 5 to 10 years, CalPERS has broadened their horizons on investments, and I think that you might find people that are much greater of an expert of an investment person than me that would tell you that they probably are, maybe broaden their horizons a little much.
I mean, they're invested in petroleum and gun manufacturers.
Yeah, it's more of some of the global kind of startup companies. You could read articles, sometimes I go down the CalPERS rabbit hole just to see what they're doing. It's not good. I usually am upset when I get out. Yeah. Laura?
How is the TCWA managing just $506,000 for net pension liability when we're 5.5 and 3.2 million?
They make a lot more money than that.
Yeah, it's a reflection of they have been, so what we do right now is we kind of do a pay-go. They've been paying it down. 2 different strategies. I'm not overly concerned about our net pension liability based off of all the other large concerns I have. They just, as an agency, have decided to start paying it. Placer County is the same way. I would say our net pension liability, our OPEB liability is actually low in comparison to other agencies. Our pension liability, it's probably about average in comparison to other agencies. I don't feel that we need to focus on it right this second, but definitely within the next couple of years, we need to start making some moves on it.
So back in 2011 or 2012, when they, is that right, Ricky? When they said that they had to do it, they started paying theirs down and we didn't.
Well, we
No,
didn't.
we do pay and go. They are paying extra down.
And if you recall, the financial management that we had at that time said, hey, we're cool, we don't need to pay this down right now.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Debbie, what's our full payoff on the full time period?
But that's the difference.
I would think that's one of the big differences. There were years there where we did not pay.
It's a projection, right? So
Yeah.
your projection gets updated every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to know too, like how many retirees versus actives you have. I don't know about PCWA specific numbers, but you know, we're approaching a one-on-one, and the more you have more retirees, we're gonna have that liability to grow. So that's why Jen's saying we need to focus on that in the future, because we're getting more and more retirees than we do actives. So that's gonna make that number.
Yeah, when the actuary goes through, they basically do a death analysis of your current staff and your retiree staff, and they make projections based off of length of life. That's how it works. But we're not doing terrible, but it should be on our radar.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions before we move on to water fund stats? Rate increases. So we don't currently have a rate increase on the books. We will be initiating our rate setting process per Prop 218. UVA, they're not real comparable because they don't provide treated raw water to the number of customers we do. But PCWA is notable. They did just approve some fairly significant rate increases, an 8, 7, 7, and a 6, which is pretty good. Now, inflation is hitting an all-time high. We are seeing year-over-year expenses go up on any particular item between 6 and 12% right now. We're getting hammered on insurance, we are getting hammered on gasoline, and we're getting hammered on parts right now. So those three and construction projects. So definitely expect for the short term that we will continue to experience increases in our expenditures. And a normal, non-inflation concerning year is typical for utilities to see a year-over-year increase in expenditures. Doesn't matter what the utility is, of about 6% per year. And services, so we talked about this, so we do treated raw, power recreation, UBA, water power rec, PCWA, treated water power rec, and then, like I said, EID is a little anomaly. Anomaly, water, sewer, reclaimed power, and rec. So Milesville Canal, this is another one, don't quote me on these numbers because it's very hard to ascertain this information from the data that they provide. One of our biggest issues we have is why we are so labor intensive is our Milesville Canal. We have 475 miles of open canal. And to recall, we are also in the process of acquiring another 17 miles of elevated flume. So it's very labor intensive. One of the other things, it is somewhat similar, especially to PCWA, we're a little bit bigger geographically, and we're just labor intensive because of the large geographic spread of our district, and then all of those open canals. That really increases our labor costs right out of the gate. Treatment plants, we're about similar, 685, not too different. Treated water customers, one of the things that PCWA did in one of their more recent rate studies is they did modify the revenue recovery split on their treated water customers. To be more fixed and volumetric. Just from the standpoint that your costs are more fixed than volumetric. Their volumetric costs would be purchasing water from PG&E. We have very few costs that are solely associated with how much water we sell. They're more in that fixed nature. So from a financial perspective, it would be better for NID to go to a more fixed-based cost structure as opposed to having fixed and volumetric. But that's a hard one for the public to accept, right? Because people who use a lower amount of water, now under a higher volumetric split, they have cheaper water bills. So those people automatically see their bills get raised.
There's roughly 2,500 customers that are treated water?
No.
10%, or is it more?
No, you got to flip-flop. It's about 19,000 treated and about 5,000 raw.
I got that.
Yeah. About 25,000 total. Miles of treated water lines, EID has a lot more. What was unclear to me is whether or not that also included their reclaimed water lines, which I kind of suspect that it does. Because they are two separate lines. That's what the purple pipe is. And getting into the reclaimed water business is a tough business to be in. I know that we heard it in some of our public surveys. People often are advised that NID get in the reclaimed water business. Well, you have to be able to have reclaimed water from a wastewater treatment facility. And there are a lot of rules that follow it, but also having reclaimed water lines is a hard utility to run. There's lots and lots and lots of rules. It's easier to implement a new reclaimed water system in kind of greenfield development than it is to come retrofit existing systems, because there are huge separation, cross-connection control requirements that you have to have between potable water lines and reclaimed lines.
We practice it just in a very simple format and putting it back in the canals.
Yes.
Seriously?
We do, yeah. It goes down Wolf Creek, right? And we pick it up again. So we do. We're just more simple, but let's not talk about it. One thing I also found that was interesting is PCWA, which a lot of agencies do this. I implemented this when we were in Lincoln, is they actually have a component of their bill that is capital replacement charge. I think that is nice for a couple of reasons. Nice for planning. It's also nice for customer transparency. They know where that money's going to. It's not just wrapped up in this complex rate. And then it really holds staff and the board accountable on spending that money on actual capital replacement.
Jennifer, how do they do that? Do they have a flat rate for that, or a percentage or something?
Typically, what I have seen is a flat rate per equivalent meter unit, which is a calculation based off of, Doug and I can argue about this all day, based off of your theoretical water use. Yeah, so like your 5/8 inch meter would be one equivalent meter unit, so they pay 1 unit of a capital charge, where if NASA used a lot of water, it's just 2-inch meter per equivalent meter unit is like 3.5. So she'd pay 3.5 times the capital charge. I save water, NASA does not. All right, so, we kind of looking at water expenditures. You know, we do try to run as lean and mean as we can, because we have a lot less revenue, as shown above. So we spend about $40.5 million, UBIS at $54 million, PCWA about $62 million, and EID about $51 million. That expenditure does include depreciation. So remember, when we talk from an accounting perspective, depreciation is one of those non-cash items. So when we build a new asset, we book it to our fund balance. It increases the fund balance. And every year, we depreciate it over its life cycle, and then that decreases your fund balance. It's called those non-cash items. So don't get overly bent out of shape about it, but everybody's depreciation is running about $5-6 million a year. Number of powerhouses. We have 7, UBIS 3, PCWA 5, and EID 1. One of the things that is, what I found interesting is we have a lower amount of megawatts per powerhouse, obviously. Yuba has a giant powerhouse, so they can make a lot of money off of it. Hydropower, PCWA has also a decent amount. They're at 224 megawatts and EID at 21. The one thing that is interesting is if you go and look at our revenue per megawatt generated, we actually have the highest revenue per megawatt generated, and that is largely because of how Kian is able to run the system, but also be that really lucrative. Go Kian! Go Kian! But we also, we have that PGD contract. So that PGD contract, was it run out 33?
Yes.
33. So after that, before that happens, we need to start thinking about that. And in comparison, though, our operation expenditures are really high per megawatt in comparison to the comparison agencies. And that's simply because it is a whole lot easier to maintain and operate one powerhouse that you drive up to, as opposed to driving 19,000 hours that are set. And so that also speaks to how big our district is. It is one of our other problems, is our district is spread out, our powerhouses are spread out. It takes us longer to get to any one of our facilities. Ken, how long does it take to get to our farthest facility?
The French Lake is probably a 3-hour drive
Each way?
each way.
So that's 6 hours of staff time to go handle one powerhouse.
Well, there's no powerhouse, just the lake there.
Oh, the lake. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what lake you said.
Bowman's probably the farthest powerhouse, a little
And
over an
that's
hour. A little over an hour each way.
Okay. So those, and the recreation revenue is also really hard to compare. I wouldn't take these numbers to the bank because, there's a variety of different scenarios on how recreation is run. Some people utilize U.S. Forest Service contracts. Some people, do the work themselves, so the revenue is all booked differently. Does anybody have any questions about this? There's a lot of information.
Thank you. I've always wondered how we compare in all these categories.
Yeah, we can continue. So what we'll do, as new CAFRs come out, remember, this is a little apples to oranges because we're not on the same cycle. As new CAFRs come out, we can continuously update this so we can just kind of see how we're doing. And we'll continue to improve our data sources, but this is also going to speak to, we can start tracking a little bit more metrics that we find useful for gauging how we're doing. Rich?
What does PCWA do with their replacement charge of $15 million a year?
Yeah, so when they did their new Prop 218 study, they did a full capital replacement master plan. And so they basically laid out their capital replacement, I think it was for a 10-year horizon. The rate period's usually 5. You try to lay out projections for 10 years, and that's how they developed their fee. Most agencies do it that way. That's referred to as pay-go. Some agencies calculate or estimate their amount of required capital replacement based off that depreciation number I was talking about. I personally don't. I don't know that there is. We haven't been doing it long enough. When did depreciation come in? When we have to start doing it? Oh my gosh. Yeah, people aren't that great at it quite yet. So I prefer not to use the depreciation method. We use the pay-go method. Do you need your M&Ms replaced?
Well, we have several bags here that we're willing to share.
Karen?
Although they have been handled, yes.
I don't have COVID.
I know, are you?
Okay, yeah. So I have some general questions. How are we using this information as part of planning? And is this an opportunity for us to brainstorm or explore other metrics without becoming, you can overdo it? But when I look at these, I have questions about additional metrics that we might be discussing. We'll also look, I assume, at key performance indicators that are part of the goal development of strategic planning. So I'm going to try to put together this metrics piece with key performance indicators and what opportunity we have to discuss other potential metrics that the organization would want to be looking at.
Which is a good question. So the plan will be, typically metrics are done, as you just referenced, once we have the strategic priorities, because that will guide what we want to track. One of the things you see a lot of agencies do is they start tracking everything under the sun, and there is very little value in it. So you need to basically first ask the question of yourself, what do you want answered before you start collecting a bunch of data. So once we get to strategic priorities, then we'll tier off of that.
It also seemed to me that looking at other agencies is helpful to a degree, but really it's looking at our own history and our own projection forward. Mm-hmm. So for me, as an example, grant funding, the area that we've all talked about, be interesting to know what others are getting, but I don't care to track what they're getting. I care more about what we're getting in our success.
Right.
so.
I think that the biggest benefit of these metrics is it really highlights where some of our challenges currently are, from a revenue perspective, from a labor perspective, just from our system. So those are realities I think we all know, but when you start really looking at comparable data, it really jumps out at you.
Are you proposing to initiate strategic imperatives to change this data? I mean,
No,
this
so
is pretty static data.
Nope, so this is just used to give you a better understanding of the district. We won't be establishing any additional metrics until we go through the strategic priorities process. All right, anyone? Thor? Nothing? You probably track more data than all of us.
Right now, collecting all this data.
Lisa? Questions? Naomi?
How many total APNs are in the district,
How many parcels?
roughly?
I used to know that, actually.
Probably say 38, 40,000, I'd guess.
Around 40,000.
I'm just guessing. Sounds about right, doesn't it? With 25,000 customers, so say there's only, yeah. It's hard to say, it's hard to do quick back of the napkin math because the lot size is so varied.
Well, and because you got big swaths of Forest Service land and SBI land and that kind of stuff. But at one point, I did a sort of a quick and dirty run about it, and it was about 30,000.
Yeah, I would think so, 30, but there's been a lot of parcel dividing down in
If you
Placer.
want to add the cities too.
Say what?
Yeah, if you add all the.
Add the cities, which we supply water.
Right, we
They're
supply
not-
water, I know, it's a tough one, so in my calculation, I didn't have the cities in it.
Gotcha.
I don't know. Yeah, one of the challenges, a lot of people, we get to ask the question all the time, why would you let Grass Valley and Nevada City in?
Why wouldn't you let them in?
Because the answer is, of course we would. It's just much more complicated than just saying, come on in. It has a lot to do with property tax sharing. That's a huge source of property tax.
They don't want to.
No, and property tax is the primary revenue source for police and fire services. So cities are extremely protective over it, and I don't blame them. I would be too. Yeah.
You're talking price increase?
Really should just vote on anything and everything, just. All right, anyone else? Okay. So now, we're doing on time. You guys are having too much fun. We won't have to listen to talk anymore. So one of the things that we're going to do right now is we are going to start the super fun process of developing our mission statement. Or does anyone need a break? I don't think we do, because we do a really long break. So what you're going to do is this is going to be a little bit of a group exercise. And we have some information to help you. And then.
I'm just stop eating chocolate.
So what your table is going to be charged with doing, so remember what the mission statement is, right? So the mission statement basically tells people what we are, how we do it, and what we're doing for COOP. And it is very important that your mission statement is very clear to your employees, it's very clear to the board, and it's very clear to the district, or to the public. Because one of the things that often happens is that it's really easy to get off mission really quickly, right? It's like, oh, let's go do, have an ice skating rink. They're super fun, the community love it. Well, that's great, but, we're not here for fun, right? We provide water. So that is the benefit of having, just here, no ice skating rinks. So what we're going to do is your group is going to develop a mission statement. So you have a little prompt sheet. So there are 5 steps in your exercise. Step 1 is each person at your table is going to take a couple of minutes to answer the 3 questions that are on your sheet. Every person at the table does that. Step 2, everybody better pay attention because some of the things you're looking at are not relevant to what I'm talking about right now. Step 2.
The eraser, it's the eraser.
Yes, ma'am.
What question
I'm telling you, I'm gonna pass it out. That's why you said, eyes up here.
You could have been a first grade teacher.
I know camp songs too. I was a camp counselor for a long time.
Keep the ruler away.
Yeah, they'll give me the ruler, no shock. Okay, step two is each team member is going to present the answers to the questions that they wrote to each other. We're gonna all talk to you about with your team. Step three is you are going to determine as a team if you have commonality amongst the answers to your questions. That's what you're looking for, right? You're trying to find what's common between all. So Lisa, Naomi, Ricky are all going to talk about the answers to the questions. They're going to try to figure out what was common with their answers, because then they're going to use those answers to craft the ideal mission statement. Once you're done crafting your ideal mission statement, you are going to pick one person to present the mission statement to the rest of the group, and then we're going to do a voting exercise again, okay? So there's a couple of things on your table that are intended to help you. One is the strategic opportunities tally that was based off of that. We tallied it up for you in case you want to look at it. Number two, we have everybody else. It's always fun to plagiarize and cheat, so we have every other agency's mission statement if you need some inspiration. And then on your worksheet, we have our current mission statement, our 2019 proposed mission statement that you can just cross out and throw away if you want. I don't even care. And what our legal parameters are. We cannot legally decide we are going to be an ice skating district. If we do, we would all have to get fired and quit because we would be not a legally formed agency under state law. So I put that there for you as well. Okay, so I'm going to pass these out. And begin.
How much time?
We'll see how you're doing. I gave you about 30 minutes, but we can do more.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm terrible talking and passing.
I don't want anybody, I don't even want to see it. It's kind of like scary.
No,
We didn't give it to you.
you guys are probably gonna give them
What do I do for short?
Give me your dog. You get her dog.
Or whatever. However we want to say it.
Well, that was in 2016.
Yeah, the 2019. Expanded a little bit.
It was.
Oh, so we're allowed to read a question.
Yeah, there.
That's an M&M.
Oh, good, I thought that was your gum. Thank you.
Yeah, that's just better.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yes.
So we have, go ahead, go ahead. I'm gonna do super simple.
We just have to follow the rules because she's looking at her.
Everybody go?
We're off topic right now. She's getting the bad eyes.
Right to work. We're just rolling. Head down, here we go.
What did you say?
Oh, is it sparkling water? I thought it was all soda.
I don't wanna hear.
Yeah, I was very brief.
Okay. Yeah, go.
I feel like such a simpleton. It's like three with it.
That's a weird question.
Yeah, I know. Probably talk about a lot of other things,
Does it start with a W and end with an otter?
but yeah, we're not gonna. I like otters. Probably the downfall of being so long as you know the history of where we came from and why.
How long have you been? 100 years?
29.
Yeah. No,
I'm 100 years old.
it's like a Benjamin Button.
And I hear all the history from great family members. Me too, grandpa. Yep.
Your family have been NID?
Well, it's just been here forever. I was a carpenter when I did, he retired. My grandfather. A lot of that stuff. Yeah, team effort, crazy. When winners are actually winners too, probably. Okay. Oh, wow.
First three, right?
This is your mom.
The warden and the chef. Are we supposed to go to step two? I didn't listen to all of these. You got all the way to. No, I like that you write a lot, because I wrote like three-word responses.
That's my job.
Exactly, I like it.
Okay.
Okay. My simple one, number one, why does your organization exist? Provide water supply to the community in our boundaries. Quite simple. We could get into detail, but ultimately that's.
No, I went residence farmers.
It's like so. It's like.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, me too.
Well, on that topic, right, we're a water supply organization, there's nothing shocking about that. The differentiation between raw and treated, I get it.
And 1 mile up.
The water supply to the folks within our boundaries.
So if you.
I think there's something to be said about quality of
I agree.
Or maybe even quality of irrigation. I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I got into the excellence.
Let me see, who do we serve?
Dutch Black Hammer, the Mansfield.
No, it's not Dutch Flat,
Like a half hour ago.
that's Mosquito, I think Mosquito, because it's.
Okay, all right. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I changed it, we have an obligation to serve
Oh, that's probably.
within our boundaries. But we have an obligation to, but we don't. There's two different things. But if you read the water code, we are obligated.
Every parcel has a right to water, even if we can't serve it.
But that's not really what the question is asking, right? The question's actually more simple.
Yeah, it's supposed to be shared and find a common.
Is that what your next thing is? Okay. So each team member presents their answers. So, why don't you begin?
That is, why does agriculture, well, also supporting our natural environment. Because I think that you with the flow of I say we serve it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
Someone has used their more than
That wasn't one of my simple answers right there, I like it.
But within Nevada, Placer, and Sierra County.
For irrigation.
Because we are a public agency. Number 3.
And question about what is the essence, we're trying to care for the watershed.
Dependable services.
Yeah, for all that.
24.
Dependability, dependable,
The whole thing? Yeah.
dependable services.
He's out of it.
Well, yeah, no, I
I know, it's okay.
And so I think some of what I see that we serve the broader community from that standpoint,
Yes,
you know, I know that
it's a really good ad.
the river fire, Jeannie called and told us to shut down Brahms Powerhouse. So we shut it down, and then they called and said, hey, we're gonna lose the grid to Grass Valley Fire Factory. And I think that's some of what Mesa does too.
Yeah, that's really true. Well, just why do we exist?
I went down to dependable and reliable, high quality water.
Our fundamental, the fundamental is the water.
Yeah, very basic.
Yeah.
I don't know how basic we want.
And that's, I wasn't sure if it's who we serve or.
I talked about the community and agriculture and families, and I think we should just maybe provide power to the region.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate fully, like sometimes it's included in the statement, and it's almost like a dig that we don't do that, right? And they want to include it, it's like, part of what we do, we are helping.
Dedicated to my.
So.
But her point of view, life in our.
That's what I thought that was good. Yeah.
It actually captures a lot.
Well, that's because it gets, then it just gets too wordy. That's, our mission is to do certified, then how we do it. Yeah.
I mean, you could combine all three of these, right? And say, to provide water supply to all parcels within the district, and high quality and reliable water supply to all parcels within the district boundaries. Essentially what the whole statement was. Is it not? And then we got a full. I think it's appropriate to fold it. That's what
I know, it's too much, huh?
It's almost like pretending. I can see that word, thing.
I like it.
Because it really is.
Because yeah, it does, you can't, it's everything.
It's not my work.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you don't need to say sustainable source. High quality among
Identified common.
So we all agree that our main purpose is to supply.
Well, it's true.
We also agree
that's really also true, yeah.
so much important. Yeah.
Our district boundaries.
Yeah, I'm pausing for a second because
I could provide, high quality water to our irrigation and treatment programs.
and the pros.
I mean, if you think about it.
We are a provider.
They're a customer of ours. They are within our exterior district boundaries.
Yeah, I think. Maybe it's better to keep it high level so we can.
Right, we need to steer short.
In our exterior boundaries.
Exterior boundaries.
Because our exterior boundaries.
Provide high quality water.
We literally don't serve outside of that.
But no, I think we're here to do this.
Because it does have a warm, fuzzy feel to it. You know, and so I think that's why I try to keep the important factor.
Apply to the residents of different areas of the district.
Our supply local.
Well, they're on a well for their.
Sustain life done.
House.
You got it.
Oh, water supplies? No, I just abbreviated.
Sustainable.
Sustainable.
Deliver water to our.
Are we writing this? No. For the common, water supply to the local community and also dependable and reliable. Again, we just need the mission statement. I feel like we're jumping, combining them all.
But that's what we're supposed to do. Draft one ideal mission statement. Yeah. So, I mean, is that how you're gonna?
Well,
Dependable and reliable, is that, are those important factors of our water?
I agree, I put the community in another.
but
technically. That's right, and our lakes are there.
Well, relative.
I service well beyond.
I mean, this is part of our mission, is to keep costs down.
Yeah, no, you have to show your badge. Grass Valley Bass right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we say, high quality water for our community. We provide. That's right. So maybe we change those around. Provide high quality water to the community.
Yeah, something, maybe that fits down to our values. That's right. What you call that, the parameters of
That provides. So maybe we just say. Do we?
And thinking it's water. We're driven by water, like it or not, as much as I love it. Number one.
I know. It's like, you wouldn't be here if it weren't for the water.
I can fit that. Yeah, so, and, yeah, related services, but that sounds really bad.
That sounds too generic.
So how about to provide a dependable, high-quality water
Yeah, everything I produce.
It wouldn't be wow.
I think it's
Well, striving for sustainability.
Yeah, okay, I want to write that down.
Well, striving for
high quality, provide that sustainable.
Yeah, because this first one says wow.
I actually like, I mean, the draft I thought was really close. There, I think there are too many words I agree.
Yeah, there's too many.
Stable and resilient, but maybe just.
Well, I don't think we need to say safe, because that's sort of like.
That's the law.
That's the law. Okay, so.
Oh, yes. You're right.
Provided dependable, sustainable.
Yes, I like that.
Water supply.
Okay, sustainable, okay, but then we have to provide, provide sustainable. To provide, yeah, you could. Quality, our mission is to provide a quality.
Well, so it could be a second sentence, right? Sentence
Yeah.
one is supply.
Period.
We will focus on resilient, sustainable.
While striving for
Okay,
sustainability.
so, choose one person to, well, you know, it gets into action. And it's kind of like.
Or quality. I like water supply.
They're done? You guys are done? All right. Who else is done?
5 minutes.
Yes. 5 minutes.
That's right.
10 minutes.
Okay, so.
Did you just get your hair cut like
He just made a good point.
It looks perfect in the back.
Well, thanks. I've been working on it.
Just get your hair cut done today.
Perfect in the back.
It makes it a more efficient.
Provide a provide a quality water supply to our community.
I like the communities we serve. I like having some service.
To the community we serve.
Well, and I like you can relate to staying wife to so many.
I don't think so. Because I think then you start getting into all the other things.
You like
stupendous?
She went for groovy.
Right, it kind of becomes another thing, it's not our mission.
The groovy water.
Yeah. Our mission is to provide within our.
I don't know what that means.
Value,
How about within
Yeah. You got it?
Can you imagine you won't have a heart attack? No, we signed a contract to restaurants with the treated water.
4 hours and our values are all about utilize the resources.
Oh, is it cool? Oh, you have a roommate?
Like that.
maybe it's more handled, we say the quality water supply is.
I don't know if you have any more. I
Yeah,
think
they
like
hear
that's quality is gonna Somebody's gonna have their hat.
Have our final.
We sustain life by providing a
Go team. Do you think it's cool? I don't ever get cold.
Last time we were here. Yeah, that was it. Doing like this whole like.
I know, you should bring a.
Well, it does so when we try to put in the hydro.
Oh, no, you're average, like,
Yeah, it's like everything that we do.
Last time we worked,
Exactly, thank you.
Everything I'm hearing is
Are we done?
under control. Now though.
You done? We're done. Done. Lori, you guys are done? Okay.
So that's.
All right.
Oh.
Let's see.
Try to go first, Shannon.
Ding, 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 ding. Shannon, Shannon's question.
Over with.
Thanks, Karen.
Shannon has a question. Everyone listen.
I don't have a question.
Oh, Shannon does not have a
I
question.
do not have a question.
No, she wants to go first. Oh, Shannon wants to go first. That was her question. Can I go first?
Totally volunteered.
Yes. Shannon, you're up. Everybody listen, you gotta stand up. And then this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna write them down, and then we're gonna vote, and then we're gonna pick our final mission statement. And I think we're gonna get out of here early because you guys are so awesome. Shannon, go.
We sustain life.
Everyone listen.
By providing a dependable, high quality, water supply within the communities. Hey, you asked.
Did an attorney write this?
Yes. Collective,
Within what?
within the communities of the Nevada Irrigation District. Spelled out.
Shannon. You got hand cramp yet?
No, explain, just explain. I look at, ours is water.
All right, who's up next?
Okay.
Naomi.
Naomi. This is a lot. Is it gonna fit here, or Katie's
Yes,
gonna have
it
to write it?
will.
No, it's gonna be fine.
Just kept this super short.
Okay, Katie, go.
To provide a quality water supply to the communities we serve.
I like that one. Winner.
Okay, now, I want to just add one thing. So we talked about all these other wonderful things, sustainability and you know, watersheds and all that stuff, but it's like, well, those will come later. But the basic mission is to just provide water.
Yeah, I always do like when the mission is very basic, because it does serve as a tool. When people start, you know, building ice rinks and doing other stuff, you're like, no, we just provide water. I like it.
Yes, well done.
No.
We don't want high quality.
We don't want high,
Yeah.
just quality.
We just want to provide quality water supply.
A quality water supply.
A quality water supply.
Period.
We're
To the
to the communities we
Oh,
serve.
to the communities we serve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doug?
The district will provide
Too long lost.
a robust.
Oh, that's a good one.
You guys broke out the.
Thesaurus.
A robust water supply for our community to thrive.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Hopefully everyone is out
Work with friends?
Oh,
You gotta do that. If you're on the floor.
Okay.
The floor.
She's rewriting.
Oh, she's rewriting.
She's
rewriting.
up.
Rewriting. Okay. Monica.
Okay, we're gonna need a couple pages.
Oh. Can we do like a little?
Right, tiny. Okay. We provide high quality good and raw water. Freebie. To our customers. Utilizing hydraulic generation, hydroelectric, I'm sorry. Hydroelectric generation. Keep rates reasonable. While continuously restoring wait till the next question comes. Restoring our watersheds.
This is your mission statement, right? Our watershed? Yes.
That's right.
For recreational and environmental stewardship. The end.
West side of the Mississippi? Want to hear some watershed?
Watershed who? All right.
Wow.
Katie, you're gonna write. Okay.
The district is committed to providing
I heard beer security.
a high quality, secure water supply.
Secure.
Yes. For all beneficial uses while ensuring long-term watershed protection and management. Protection and management.
We're not doing any combining?
We're gonna combine after we sticker.
Ooh.
The district committee is providing a high-quality, secure water.
All right.
Everybody gets one vote?
Hold on, I gotta make sure I get all my stickers. You only get one vote this time. We're seeing if there's any need to combine.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
You didn't get a sticker?
I think
I got one. You get a sticker.
Pre-cut sticker.
Wait, no, she didn't. You don't get one.
All right. So now we are going to see if there's any general consensus amongst the larger group
Who cares?
about any of the proposed mission statements. You only get one sticker this time, so sticker away. Vote.
Did you get a sticker singing?
We're all sticking our own. I know, we're gonna stick your own.
I don't know, I have to see
And then what are the values and stuff?
You want some chocolate? He probably voted for his.
Okay.
I think everybody's voting for their sweatshirts. Shut up. We can turn the air off.
No, it's keeping me awake, it's fine.
If we open that door, I think it will get.
Simple one.
Oh, is it?
Speed.
I was gonna give it to you, and then I thought you left.
Oh, no, George, no.
Oh, got it. Oh, no, no, but I just thought, this is exactly what you asked for.
Yeah, no, they had one before.
I know, but this is.
I wanted to make sure you were in the, like I said, when we get the call.
Okay, now, I got it.
That time of year, we're, yeah, overnight, I gotta, yeah. Did you mess with any of the clothes? Which ones? They mess more with the drum. Yeah, no problem, right? They evacuated the entire time, didn't leave anyone there? Sounds like she stayed. Locked the doors in the powerhouse and left. Wow, crazy.
No, Chris, are we gonna lobby?
Yeah, robot.
Chris!
It's gonna be simple. Sounds good. Feels good.
Well, or we could combine. Combine.
They're very simple.
They are very simple. One has a little sexy language, the others are just like plain.
Mission, yeah, so did everyone vote? Rich, did you vote?
Yep.
Okay. So, and everyone understands the difference between the mission is what we are, and the vision is who we want to be.
Right.
Okay? All right. So we have a couple that rose to the top. This one, the district will provide a robust water supply for communities to thrive. It actually is very similar to the other one that rose to the top, to provide a quality water supply to the communities we serve. So what are the big differences between the two?
Who we serve and.
Strive.
Ours has an outcome.
Yeah,
Strive is a goal,
Is a future
Robust.
reality.
as opposed to a mission.
robust,
And it's active, the district, oh, well, if we took out the will, if the district provides as opposed to provide.
Well,
that
that just got shortened. It was the district shall provide or to provide. I
Our
mean, it was,
mission is
we
to
left the
provide,
district piece
yeah,
out.
so
because
you
we
can always
explained
replace it, say, our mission is to provide.
Okay.
it. Yeah, I mean, we,
We wrote, our mission is to provide a quality water supply to the communities we serve.
Our mission, okay.
Yeah.
So they're really similar. Is there any huge differences? Do we like one? Can anyone advocate for one over the other?
what were the,
What's robust
So there's
mean?
7, 5, 8, 5.
What does robust mean?
Yeah, what-
So say awesome. Put awesome. But I mean, how do you define
Yeah, how do you
define
Let's talk about the word robust because I think it's a little bit of a trigger word, honestly.
yeah, it is a
Yeah.
trigger word.
Robust is, we actually started with reliable, dependable. And robust is dependable, but it's a little more, right? It's sustained, it's, the dependability part of it. It's also, yeah, it's an action, it's like a viable thing going forward.
I think
So
it
we're
sounds like
okay
hyper-
with changing that word.
Robust, the definition of robust is awesome.
Yeah, so, according to the dictionary, as an adjective, robust means strong, healthy, vigorous.
Vigorous.
And healthy.
Healthy.
Wouldn't say we want a vigorous water.
Yeah, but do
Strong
some,
and rich.
do some, yes, Laura?
No, we don't want.
Our directions on this, because the mission statement should describe what the district does and why. The mission statement is more action-oriented, the mission statement should serve as a basis for achieving future vision. Is our future vision, we just want to only keep providing water? We're ignoring 2 of our business lines. I mean, neither of these talk about hydro, recreation, watershed, nothing.
Well, that's because we talked about that, Laura, that's good. And what we thought was, our basic mission is to provide water.
Right.
And then the vision of what we do with that and how we go forward is, because Kean was at our table. We wanted to talk about hydro. And, and so there's hydro and there's rec and there's all these other aspects that we want to do. And, local ag and, we can talk about all of the pieces that come into it. But we just felt like our basic mission is just to provide water. And then underneath that is how we do it, what we get from it,
So what is the why?
Pretty
Why do we want to do that?
To thrive.
To thrive.
And
I don't like the word thrive.
that one, Jennifer, that one is more.
It sounds like Kaiser, I know.
Right. So that one is more inclusive. It's a bigger community. It means the environment, it means everybody. It's our huge community.
Yeah, so I wonder if there's a different word besides robust. I
Me too.
think robust
Yeah, me
is a
too.
little
Yeah,
bit triggering
I
for
think so,
some
too.
people and maybe
I can see
taken the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's valuable though, right?
Mhm.
Strong,
It's strong.
sustainable, what about quality?
Quality's a good, it's clean.
What do we think about switching up robust with quality?
That matches the.
Dependable too.
For our communities.
But we need to talk about thrive too.
Yeah,
What,
Stability is important.
Secure covers.
but if it's quality, it is
provide a
dependable.
secure,
Water sustainable.
what about secure? Quality, secure.
Well, then you could just then there's this one that says that, dependable, quality, secure, sustainable, resilient. I mean, it's like, it's
Pull on our,
all
What
of
about-
those things.
high quality.
What's the number one most, so high water quality is dependable,
Mhm.
ability to provide water is dependable.
And those words are on our first vision.
What about reliable?
What, are you going back to the 2016 one?
Yes, I just pointed out, those words are already in this one. They're here.
Can I
They're
have
right
this?
there. No.
All right,
Good move.
Okay, the district will provide, do we like dependable?
High quality.
High quality?
High quality
Okay,
is
everyone likes high
dependable.
quality?
Quality's not dependable.
It's not it's not.
Hey,
They are not the
So we
same.
have.
They are different.
Someone says high quality, every group put high quality minus.
We didn't put high, we just put quality.
So obviously everybody likes the high quality.
provide a quality water supply.
No, we want a high quality one.
High quality.
It's robust for dependability.
That's what I'm doing right now. That's what I'm trying to do if people pay attention.
Is there-
Provide a high quality water supply.
I think that back here in this group here, including Torres Table, we think that dependable is not the same as high quality. Because you can have high quality but not deliver it.
Right.
And so those are two independent adjectives describing the water we deliver.
Is there a problem with adding both?
Dependable, high quality.
Dependable, high quality water supply.
Right.
Sure.
Take out robust, put write it down.
Let's just adopt
Yeah, just catch that in.
You know, it wasn't ours.
No, just like above.
No, the one above,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I think we're gonna adopt it.
I think we would have to explain for.
Okay, so, Laura,
Everyone would have loved to.
diverse community. Hold on, I wanna just, we're gonna go word by word so we get through this.
Cool.
Could we take out high? Yeah, take out high. Just
Who's
dependable
high?
quality. Quality, comma, dependable.
I'm curious, I'm curious why.
And it does seem like an extra
It's
adjective.
redundant.
I don't think that it matters.
That's what we think over here.
That it doesn't matter? Leave it? All right, that's fine. It doesn't really.
Quality is quality.
Yeah.
Makes you.
I think you could drop the A to limit it to,
The district will provide,
Dependable.
Dependable, comma, high quality. No, a water supply, that's how we, that's why the A
I think
needs
the
to
A
be
needs
there.
to be in
The
there.
A needs to
The
be there.
district will provide a dependable, high-quality water supply for, we all agree, our,
Yes.
we all agree? Laura wants to put in diverse communities.
For our communities,
I think that, yeah,
Is
that
a
is
broad
everyone.
term.
That is everyone. Yeah,
That is diverse.
the royal we.
yeah,
And
Sure are we.
yeah.
We should all wear black today.
Did we drop the sneak term?
For our communities
And King
to thrive. How do we feel about thrive? My personal opinion about thrive is this sets the bar pretty high on things we don't know what people are
Right.
thriving about.
Right.
we started
And we
with
don't-
prosper, but that felt like money.
I don't understand. What's the concern about Thrive? I don't understand.
I just think that thrive has we could be
Your
taking
definition of
accountability
thrive
for
is different
things
than mine.
that I don't know that we have any business taking accountability for. Economics,
So because we provide them water,
Health.
they're gonna thrive?
I
Like the
know.
communities thrive because
There
we
was no
can
water in this community, which.
provide water?
they would die, that could be it.
They soon thrive, we're aging in our community. I mean, it would take a little work. Prosper.
Why not just communities we serve,
I like
with our communities?
I like that we serve.
Yes.
Because.
I like to
serve.
serve too.
What about prosper?
I think
No,
it's
that's an economic
it's just
term.
economics. I just don't know how much we can actually move the needle on it.
Well, the communities don't exist without NID.
But they don't improve with NID.
Right.
From a financial
But
perspective.
Placer County
Prospering
did
and thriving are not
or $100 million in
meaning.
agriculture. They're up 7%.
Yeah, but if our water supply stays the same, we don't move the prosper needle.
Okay, you could say that the farmers would be more efficient.
That's a function of them, but I think our job is just to get them the water. What they do with it is on them. If they choose to
That's
thrive
the
or not thrive.
water supply
And in
for our thriving community.
How about just say for our community?
We don't really know,
Right. I know.
because you need a why.
I think Keith and I are only one vote. I don't care for thrive either. I think it's ill-defined and it's not something we could ever say we're actually doing.
I agree.
Got somebody in the corner.
Katie?
Well, I was just saying, I'm almost back to this first one at the top.
Yeah.
So just to point out what Laura said earlier, if you read the mission statement directions, it says what the district does and why. So if you get rid of that independent communities, it doesn't.
Well, no, she's saying maybe to
Well, we do
serve
have
our
Y.
communities.
Provide
No,
water.
I'm talking about this one.
Oh.
Yeah. If you just wait to drive off.
Okay, so the district will provide dependable, high-quality water supply. You could say to serve our community.
There you
There we
go.
go, to serve our communities, and that's the why.
Yeah, I agree.
So then we go
To serve
I can let mine, I can learn that one.
our communities,
Oh.
period, boom. It's almost identical, but.
Okay, Ricky.
I would like to ask if we could just say, the district provides, as opposed to will provide, because it's what we're doing now, and it's active
We're
tense, and I
continuing.
don't like the will.
I like that too. Who doesn't like getting rid of the will?
Well, our mission
So-
is to do something.
Yes, the district provides.
Yeah,
Our mission.
that's what we do.
No,
Yeah.
the district provides.
A dependable, high-quality water supply to serve our communities, period. Sounds good to me.
Okay. Team Beer Wagon,
What?
what do we think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Team Laura,
Yes. Sure.
That was a robust endorsement.
so you're positive? Sure, okay.
And it is what it is.
So Karen, Team Karen,
Team, what do we say?
Final answer, here we go. Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Team Rich,
We're holding out for awesome for Doug.
Well, Doug is awesome, so good, you're good.
Team Ricky.
Are we good? Yeah, we're good.
Anybody have an issue with the word This is your last
Are we
chance.
going down to word by word?
We are,
Yeah.
no, word by word, one last time. You get to say, Glenda, you can participate.
Can we change the?
Anyone have an issue with the word
Can you read?
Get rid of the.
Yeah, read
I'll
it once,
to
the
you.
whole thing.
The district provides a dependable, high-quality water supply to serve our communities.
Why don't you put NID, Valley
Yeah.
Irrigation
Valley
District
Irrigation
provides.
Does everybody
I
agree
think
with that?
we need a verb.
We should put the Valley irrigation. Okay.
And do you want to continue that active tense for like serving instead of to serve? Pre-provide, we.
Yeah, I like having NID in there.
Okay. Valley Irrigation District provides a dependable, high-quality water supply.
Serving our community?
To serve our community.
Just put a period there, you don't have to put serve the committee.
I think you should have to serve the community.
I think we do need to serve our community. Okay.
But we.
Do you wanna
no,
put
wait,
the
wait,
point?
wait, you're backtracking on your previous Beer Wagon vote, we just had. Okay.
We're not done scratching it out yet.
Nevada Irrigation District provides a dependable, high-quality water supply to serve our community.
Perfect.
Rich?
Well, or flip it, NIDs serve our community by providing a dependable, high-quality water supply.
We're not here to serve our community, we're here to
I just don't
provide
think it's
water.
stated as a mission.
No, I like it, but I'm just,
He's just messing with it.
don't put me up there.
Oh, under the bus.
Wow.
All right,
supported awesome.
That's right.
let's see, Cameron, what do you think?
I'm good with it.
Do you think it's clear?
I think it's simple and clear, yes.
Do you think staff will be able to understand? I think it's easy.
Again, my only comment again is is to serve is future, is not active, let talk. If you want to make it an active,
Nevada Irrigation.
because we're provides is active. And,
You can say in service of our community.
yeah, something, because.
In service or,
Yeah, it just
To
fixes
serve.
there's a grammar issue with it.
yeah, or to serve our communities.
To serve doesn't work.
It
It has to
doesn't,
say
oh,
in
because it's a
service
grammar
of.
thing. Yeah, I failed that.
Does anybody care about the grammar as much as Steve and I? In service of our community.
No, it matters.
I think it matters.
It sounds more elegant.
In service hours. Okay, now we gotta have a new one.
There's another one.
Okay, so vehicles and structures,
Oh.
fire across from Forest Hill High School.
Are we?
That's why.
So when you put this out for the public, is it gonna be like mission statement, colon, and what it is, or?
It's mission, and then there's a vision about how we implement in our valley.
Right, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
I think it should be the Nevada Irrigation District.
Was it capital T?
Oh, well, right. Provide
3 to 5 years to do.
high quality water in service.
Have the theme song?
It doesn't flow.
Well, we got, so let's just read it.
You do need.
I'm hearing a side conversation that I think is relevant to everyone to have a discussion around, because I think it's a topic that's gonna come up in the organization, which is, I'm hearing the essence of it being that, NID has other business lines besides delivering water, and they're not reflected in this statement. And so how do we kind of align this mission statement with the fact that we've got two other important aspects of NID that aren't reflected in this mission statement? So I'll let you guys, and more context beyond that.
Yeah.
Take care of the watershed, you know, and the environment, so.
So with the mission statement, you know, from a legal perspective, what we actually do, we wouldn't be doing any recreation or hydropower, but wasn't
Right.
delivering water. So those would fall in the strategic priority.
Mm-hmm. Like, this is the umbrella, provide the water. and then you do hydro and
I'll
recreation
bring up something that I haven't shared with anybody yet, but this will help you understand why this is probably an important conversation to have. We got a phone call, so they're talking about closing the Bear River Campground.
Right.
We got a phone call today asking if we'd be interested in taking it over. My gut tells me that's a terrible idea, because our ratepayers already subsidize recreation, and it's not a requirement, right? So from that perspective, that's how you could kind of see how a solid mission statement helps you, because it really isn't our mission. We're not here. Although we're good at recreation, Monica's team does a great job, it's a requirement of what we do. It's not what we do. But, you know.
It's not a mission.
Yeah, I mean, that's where a succinct mission statement helps. But focusing on the other business lines is important, because the better you do at those business lines, the better your ability to provide the service. So that's really where you start feeling those fall out in the strategic priorities.
We couldn't provide a dependable, high-quality water supply if we didn't have a healthy environment.
You couldn't, yep,
And a
that
healthy
is definitely for
watershed.
sure. And that's why I think that would probably fall out as a strategic priority.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just really important that everybody feels a part of this, so that the people who are in recreation and are part of hydro and are working their tails off for that part of the organization, and for those people in administration who don't ever touch an actual canal. So anyway, I think this is good, because it does focus why we are here as a district. But I've seen it in a bigger context at UC Davis, where people say, you know, I don't feel connected to this mission, because they're down here doing this little task, and they don't see themselves connecting to the whole.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. A lot of times, it's hard to connect to the whole when the mission statement is convoluted too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why it's always recommended to have something very succinct. you know, and it speaks to a bigger reason, is that you can't just do this in this room and put it on a business card and walk away, right?
Right.
You have to have conversations at all levels, through performance reviews, through training, through talking to them, through budget development about what we're doing and why.
Is it in service to our communities?
Service of.
I'm asking, I don't know the grammar
I think
thing.
it's of.
What does that mean? What is the service of our community?
In service of our communities, it just sounds.
You're serving your community. The grammar was messed up before.
No, I get it. What about in support of our community? I don't know what service means.
I like service, Ken likes service.
I like service, but I don't, just as a public servant, we're in service of.
Service of our
It's
community.
not our money, it's taxpayers' money.
Right, we're here to serve.
Because it's just mixing up the grammar, the tenses on the grammar.
Yeah. Does it need it that?
Maybe you could wordsmith it, maybe, I feel like maybe, sorry, I have opinions. I just read it later. No, you could share, we're wordsmithing, wordsmith away, Melinda.
Resonating with folks, and I think it's thinking about just your general population, something that's really easy to understand, and sometimes obviously is very different than spoken grammar, and so it doesn't always read correctly to folks when you think about how things are spoken, so maybe it's worth thinking about rewording it so it's a little more accessible.
Do you have any recommendations?
I can't see it honestly from the.
Oh, you can come up closer if you like.
I would be happy to help with that, but.
All right, so this sounds like people are having an issue with in service of our community. Nevada Irrigation District provides a dependable, high-quality water supply.
To serve.
What if you said, what if you said?
To the communities we serve.
How about take the end of that?
That's what we said, is to the communities we serve.
Okay, while being, provide a high-quality water supply while being good stewards of our watershed.
Okay.
I don't disagree, but that's like a whole
Nevada Irrigation
change.
District provides a dependable, high-quality water supply.
For our community.
It could just be
Oh, it could
for
be for our community.
For our community.
There you go, simple.
As a keystone to our communities?
Say that again.
As a keystone to our communities.
Oh, as a keystone.
Without the keystone, it crumbles.
Then it gets, then people are like, what does that mean?
All right.
No, I agree with you, but I'm just, if what we're trying to do is craft something that everybody understands.
High-quality water supply.
The most important part of anything.
No, I agree, I know, I understand what it means.
Yeah, no, but.
I like for our community. Nevada Irrigation District provides a dependable, high-quality water supply for our community.
There you go.
I like it.
Boo.
Pretty simple.
Repo.
So the word service is out.
Wait. Oh, for our community. Oh.
High-quality water supply for
We're actually
our.
providing a product, not a service.
Provided service.
Well, that is also true.
Got pretty good customer service, I would say, right, Aurora?
Nevada Irrigation District provides a dependable, high-quality water supply for our community.
Yes.
We already serve, we're providing, we don't provide it for our community.
The problem with.
No, we do.
Communities we serve.
Because half the customers don't get NID water. Half the taxpayers don't even get
It should be
NID water.
interpreted as complicated, yeah.
And they receive a benefit.
Are you talking about Grass Valley and Nevada City and those stuff?
Well, I'm also, like, I'm one of these, right? I have my well, I don't get NID water anywhere. But I do benefit from the services that NID provides.
Yeah, and remember, we have people who pay property taxes that don't get water.
That would be me.
They get hydrants.
No, I don't even get a hydrant.
Nevada Irrigation District provides a dependable, high-quality water supply for our communities.
Here, here.
That's bad, yeah.
What else can we do?
I think it's a wrap.
All right.
Are
you sad we're losing service?
Service is good.
Yes, she liked it.
I like service,
I
but it
like
doesn't
service
matter to me.
too, but
I have to say I like service too.
To serve our community.
I like to serve our community.
Continue to provide a dependable, high-quality water supply to serve our community. That fits the ground.
You could just say Nevada Irrigation District
Will continue.
serves a dependable, high-quality water supply.
No, that
I like provide better.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
if service,
it's that one, adding dependable.
You know what, service could be one of our values.
It could be,
Yeah, service is a value.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Nevada Irrigation District provides a dependable, high-quality water supply for our community.
There we go.
Team Beer Wagon,
Yes.
Chad's not letting Chris vote anymore.
He just told me I wasn't gonna win. I said, well, I gotta shout louder.
All right, Team Karen,
Yeah, we rocking with it.
Team Laura, Team Rich.
I love service. I love the service.
Speak up, Ken has an opinion.
Ken,
It's
speak
just,
up.
it's the one that we wrote over there. It's just Nevada Irrigation District will provide a quality, dependable water supply to the communities we serve.
Yeah, I'm,
I like the.
We're working on another one now?
That's what it already was.
And we're like blending.
We're blending, we're blending.
I thought we
The
already did
grammatical
that.
problem, that is an issue.
Just change take the R out.
yeah. Communities.
We serve. There it is.
Oh, now it's yours?
Well, two though.
Now we're.
Or for the, or again.
For the
Does that
community.
isolate people if they pay taxes and don't get service?
Yeah. Nevada Irrigation District provides a dependable, high-quality water supply for the communities we serve.
There you go.
Wait, I don't, no.
You're gonna get voted off the island.
I'm really learning. Okay. Hey, Rich, does this help, is this better for you?
Little, ambiguous if we're serving water to specific customers. We serve the bigger community.
That's
It
what
says
it
community.
Is it for the community or to the community? Serve
For the community.
The water supply to the communities and specific people, for is for the greater benefit.
Yeah.
I would leave it as for.
Yeah, I think that, for the communities we serve.
Yeah. Anyone? All right, this is gonna be final then.
Going once?
Hey, you guys do a lot of talking back there. Do you guys have more comments?
It's been said,
Huh?
it's not agreed is all.
He doesn't agree?
No, the comments have been said, it's not agreed upon.
I just don't want to disenfranchise a group of people we don't supply water to, and that could be construed that way.
Well, I don't think.
That's
it's
why we took it to
franchise.
for the communities we serve.
Right.
For the benefit of. What's your opposition?
For the people in the community district, we do not serve, water to. So we're not serving them.
That's true.
True, I'm not an NID customer, but I feel like I get value from NID
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure in the watershed.
Yep, me too.
More awareness of general people who don't.
That's because we can serve a watershed.
But I do think that moving from two to four,
Yeah.
because when you say to the community we serve, then you're being specific to customers that we serve. Whereas when you change it to four, it's broad.
And I agree with that.
I agree. Good
Yeah, I agree with
For
that.
is the larger greater benefit.
I don't have a problem with that, it's just, I mean, I'll go with it, it's not a problem.
Are you
It's
not,
just that I think-
are you not seeing a pathway for the best to sneak in here?
A backbone extension program?
Yes, Laura?
Thank you for
I
advertising.
think because we've lost over half of our online community and everybody else, I don't think we should make this put the gavel, this is it, I think, this is what we came up with at the end of the day last time, have it open the next meeting, and everybody's fresh, and there's more people on the line, and say, does anyone have any issues?
So people know when the meetings are at the same time, so this is just a preliminary vote. When this all gets packaged up, it'll go to an actual vote
Right.
before the board, yeah. So we're not gonna open it back up for wordsmithing at the next meeting, but, so we do want to put this to bed, yeah.
Yeah, no, that was awful.
Okay, so Nevada Irrigation District provides a dependable, high-quality water supply for the communities we serve.
Going
Yeah.
good?
Looking good. Good? Hold on, we still have,
Uh-oh.
do we have thumbs up or no?
This table,
Rich?
we'll have to wait until the vote.
So you realize every single time we have strategic planning, we will play a longer and longer game in the beginning.
Just.
The comment that we had was that serve in front of communities is providing service to the community. Serve at the end is we're delivering something to, it could be misconstrued as we're delivering something to someone who's paid us to give them something.
I almost think it's the opposite. Yeah, serve is not, to me, as specific as providing service, like
Right.
customer service or account service. I think the word serve is brought up. Let's look up what the word serve means. Let's see. Perform duties or service for another person or organization to present somebody a drink.
You're starting now, though.
It does. To be servant, to give service and respect, to supply, to hands, gratify. Does anybody else have major issue with for the communities we serve?
No.
No.
Do you have any other suggestions, Rich?
I mean, I'm halfway fine with it.
Halfway.
You're gonna hear about it every time.
Can we get that over 51%?
I think, no, I'd vote for that. The thing is that in the future, we're just gonna have to find out how the community perceives it. And if they perceive it fine, that we're providing a greater service than just the water we deliver to individuals, I think we're fine.
You could just stop it here then,
Yeah.
or just provide water.
I said it 3 times.
Everyone gets their feelings hurt.
I like communities and service.
I do too. I mean, I think part of a mission statement is who you are serving. I mean, and so we're pretty general there with the communities, but part of, who do you deliver high-quality water to?
Go to the Y.
Go to our community.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have it.
They don't have to say stuff, control the fire.
For the communities?
Yeah, no, I think we.
All right. No, that'd be perfect. I have you guys for exactly
I know.
36 more minutes. Nevada Irrigation District provides a dependable, high-quality water supply for the communities we serve.
I think it's lovely.
I'm with it.
I like it.
Nate, what do you think? Yeah? What do you think? Thumbs up? Suzanne, all right. This is it. Anyway, this is your last 3 seconds to say, hold your peace. Forever hold your peace. You have something, you can say something or forever hold your peace. Go. Okay. Let's give any members of the public. We don't, we can get anyone other questions? All right, we will meet again next time.
Nicely done, Jen.